As certain do get stuck at the hospital, but that's okay. We can fly without him for a bit. I think what's cool too about doing something like this in a extended series, like 5 days, is that y'all are really kind of invested, and it's sort of nice to have that feeling of community where other people share and have the same kind of feelings in the chat, and they relate, and you finally kind of feel like that sense of community. It makes it really nice. Hey, on Facebook, Cher and Catherine. Hi. Day 4. So we're going to get out of the logic again today. We spent the last 2 days kind of talking about the science and why we're different when it comes to what we need to eat and how we need to eat, because we've had this adaptation of our metabolisms based on taking in so much less for a long period of time after we had our surgery. And, I like to also, I think when you really think about the fact that the average calorie intake from before surgery to after surgery in those first few months, we went from eating somewhere around 3,000 calories on average down to a day before our surgery. And then we went down to 5, 6, 700 calories on average for a while right after surgery. That was a deficit of like 25, 27, even 3,000 calories a day. So it makes sense that we lost weight easily and quickly, right? Because that's a huge calorie deficit. And unfortunately, we're never going to see that again, ever, because we're never going to be able to accomplish that kind of deficit, right? Because now, if our metabolisms are down to 1,200, 1,400 calories a day, is kind of what we burn just, in our normal day. And we're taking in roughly the same, even if we cut and we cut to 500 calories, which is not very sustainable or healthy, we're still only left with, a 600 calorie a day deficit. So, if we took that method, then we would have to go very low on our calories. Wouldn't be good. And we would not be happy people. That's starvation. And the other thing that would happen is we would reset our metabolisms again, and then we'd really be screwed, right? So trying to starve ourselves thin is not the answer. And we know that this metabolic management of our weight, it does work. It has to be, specific. We have to work hard at it. We have to make adjustments sometimes. And every body is a unique body, and every body is different. So that means that, what works for one person may not work as great for another, but it's all using the same method. It's all using low carbohydrate. It's trying to shorten our eating window some. Now, how low carbohydrate, how short the window, it depends. But we can certainly start there. All right, so let's dive in now that it's past 7:02. I got off on a tangent a little bit, to our emotional talk about all of the resistance that comes into big change. So it's really the day where we're getting out of the science and getting out of all the teaching instruction and getting into some feelings a bit. So I definitely would love for y'all to interact with me as we chat tonight. I have the job of challenging you on beliefs that you hold really close to you. And a lot of these beliefs we hold so close that we have basically they've become so comfortable to us. It's just like innate thinking, and it's kind of like our default thinking, and so it feels completely natural, and we just kind of take this stuff to be fact, without really ever stopping to challenge them, to being aware, like, hey, is that really true? And like, is there a way to think of this any differently? So this is why, the work can be uncomfortable and definitely bring up resistance. But hopefully, I'm going to start to plant some seeds that might allow you to sort of become aware. Awareness is key, and then start to challenge these beliefs a little bit. For sure, some of the most impactful work that clients do when we work together is to challenge their limiting beliefs and work to develop these kind of new beliefs around what they're capable of and what they're deserving of, kind of like stepping into like this like new and improved version of themselves. So today we're going to dive into this a little bit and start to challenge some of this stuff that's keeping us stuck. It's preventing us from taking action, and it's preventing us from continuing to take action, right? Maybe we do it a little bit and then we give up. So now that we know what the actions are from days 2 and 3, you'll need to ask yourself, okay, but now will I do it? So let me give you an analogy. Let's pretend that what we're doing over the course of these 5 days is we're building a car. And this car is going to get us to the destination of our dreams. So the foundational pillars on day 1, kind of what is like, behind everything we need to do, and what is our why? Why is it important? Why does it matter? Right? That's the body of the car. And days 2 and 3, the science and the roadmap is like the engine. So that's, important. We've got to have the body, we've got to have the engine, but now we're going to need the steering wheel and the navigation to help to get us to the correct destination. So today, overcoming barriers and objections, it's like us being able to take off the emergency brake, okay? Because now we have the car, but the emergency brake is on and we need to figure out how to get it off, or we can't get to our destination. Are you with me? Oh, okay. Susan, I thought you were telling me you don't have you weren't hearing me. Okay, that's cool. No worries. Drive safely. All right. So for sure, success is predicated on making a decision. So again, today, I want you to think back to times in your past where you've accomplished something big, like advancing your career, getting a promotion, buying a house, setting some big goal and really crushing it. And if you recall, it was really unlikely that you did that, accomplish that big thing, without putting significant effort forward to do it, right? It didn't just fall in your lap because you thought it would be nice and you kind of like, wished for it. So more likely you had to do a lot of work and take many steps towards that big goal. So a lot of days they were tiring and you weren't sure that it was going to happen. You weren't going to get there. You weren't going to accomplish it. Maybe you were kind of feeling like, wah, wah, I might be feeling this, but somehow you mustered up the courage to continue on. And whether or not that took support from others to help kind of keep you moving forward, probably that big accomplishment was driven by a big, important why. So I hope y'all brought your whys tonight so we can for sure talk about those a little bit. But you were invested in it. So whatever that big thing is you accomplished in the past that meant something to you, you were invested in it. Quitting wasn't an option. The why was big. So look, you're here with me this week because you know that thinking about it and hoping that it weren't so tough or wishing you could be like others will not get you anywhere, but basically feeling sad. So intellectually, you know that in order to have a change in your current situation, let's say that situation is having weight that you need to lose, and this feeling of blah, which is so often how people describe this feeling that we're stuck in, is blah. Intellectually, you know that a change can only come from making a change, right? It's just common sense. And hopefully by now you have enough education and information to feel confident in what that change looks like. But I totally understand that there are tons of so-called like weight loss experts out there, but I've told you that we're experts in weight loss in this unique group of people for sure, those people that are struggling after surgery like you are. And we've given you the science as to why the other things won't work well for you. So now let's talk about the other factors in creating success. All right. So number one, we have to challenge ourselves. So much like if we're lifting weights, that's challenging the muscle, which then produces the growth of the muscle. We're going to need to challenge ourselves to grow into weight management champions. We have to accept the work ahead of us as a necessary challenge. And that's all it is. It's a challenge. It's not some insurmountable task. I'm here to tell you that the way in which we choose to look at the work ahead of us is going to make all the difference. It's going to dictate the experience that we have in implementing the changes that we want to make, because we are going to challenge ourselves to find new habits and foods that will work to achieve our goals. And we're going to challenge ourselves to keep doing these habits until they become routine. I want an end result for you to be that you know exactly what foods bring you weight loss whenever you choose to lose. That is freedom, my friends. That's a tool that you need in your toolbox, because we're going to be doing this weight management game for the rest of our lives. So we need to figure it out, right? So by that, you're going to have retrained your habits to the point where those foods that bring you weight loss, for the most part, are the foods that you prefer, because not only do they help you manage your weight, because that's, maybe not going to keep you coming back to those foods over and over again, but they make you feel your best. The next thing is consistency. And by now through your bariatric journey that as soon as you stop being consistent with the habits that were working well for you, the result that you had just slowly fades away. So we have to figure out how to stay consistent. And oftentimes, all of these paths to success, making the big change, challenging your mindset and habits, and then doing it consistently, will require some sort of mentorship or some sort of accountability to help you along the way. I've shared with you, it did for me to achieve most anything really big that I've achieved. I've had to get help in getting there, because I needed to be able to overcome those limiting beliefs if I can't. I have coaches right now, actually, a few of them. So just like my friend and client Sabine says in the group to people, which I just love about, we're not it's not like going to the LASIK doctor and the doctor's wearing glasses. It's true, right? I mean, we're patients, but we are also patients who get coached because we recognize that it's necessary for us. So let's talk about this question. When it comes to losing weight, the root of which is changing up your lifestyle to something that is effective, who or what is it that most likely gets in your way? There might be more than one answer here, but who or what is it that mostly gets in your way? Please answer in the chat. Except for you, Susan, don't answer. I did. So a couple me's. Anybody on Facebook can type? Sometimes we do get, okay, my family. Sometimes I was going to say, sometimes we do get the spouse, and I consider that okay. Grief, that's a good one. So high emotional. So you're an emotional eater. Convenience. Okay. So that would be kind of like poor planning, right? Anger and frustration. So, all right. So we've got some emotional, and we've got some me. So, kind of, in all cases, we're at the root of it. My stress and pizza. I love it. I'm a pizza lover too. I can relate to that one. So I think that the reason why that we answer ourselves mostly is, because we have a lifetime of experience in trying and failing, right? And in this one particular area, and it leads to a lack of belief in ourselves. And we really have become experts at negative self-talk. We have a lot of beliefs around what we're capable of, whether or not we're going to ever be able to be successful at this one thing. And the reality is that in order to get unstuck, we have to be able to acknowledge and overcome our faulty beliefs and these self-limiting concepts so that we can just get unparalyzed, take off the emergency brake, and take action. So we have to catch ourselves telling these stories about why we can't or won't do the thing that we know we should. Because again, this is the theme that I have said before, but change can only happen from action. So we have to be willing and able to take action towards what we want, and overcoming the stories we tell ourselves is definitely where we're going to need to start. So let's dive into some of the common self-beliefs that we commonly hold that keep us stuck. And while I'm talking here, I really want you to consider which of these apply to you. There's likely more than one, and that's great. That's fine. But I want you to write it down. I want you to put it in the chat, because these are, things that you're going to need to revisit. So you're going to want to write them down and really come back to think about them later. And I'll be giving you some homework around them. So I'm going to just do a good amount of talking for a while, going through some of these. And I want to hit the ones that I know are very common, and talk about how we can like intellectually challenge them. And then at the end, we're going to try some exercises to kind of reframe them from an emotional standpoint, from the standpoint of, when we catch ourselves saying this, how can we maybe make it a little bit better of a version of these like terrible things that we say to ourselves. All right. So the first one is, that's very common if you are a part of other people's space group besides ours, because ours is the best in terms of interaction and kind of bad behavior stuff. But I should be able to eat everything in moderation. Some people say, well, I won't obsess over food if I can just have a little bit in moderation. We need to accept this as false, because we've proven the science of this, that, it is false. And when it comes to kind of eating low carb, a bite or a bowlful, it really doesn't matter. All right. Because a bite is going to jack up your blood glucose and then your insulin. And then, what work you've done in the day, hours, days prior is kind of like ruined for a little bit. We might not like that this is the truth, but now at least we know it and we can accept it, right? And so everything in moderation might be true when we're trying to maintain weight. That is maybe some place where we can get away with it. But for weight loss, we have to balance our hormones so that we can lose fat, like we showed you on day 2. So this means that we're going to have to change the types of foods that we eat. There's often very good substitutions, maybe not the same, but you get used to them and learn to like them a lot, for our favorite foods, for all those comfort foods and, familiar family things and traditions and things like that still allow us to balance our hormones. But eating everything in moderation is an excuse that we give ourselves. And especially after having gone through this course, if you continue to say, well, my belief is everything in moderation, then I'm going to challenge you and say that I think that's an excuse to let yourself off the hook for, just kind of doing what you need to. If I could have everything in moderation, I wouldn't have needed weight loss surgery. I mean, I do tend to agree with that. Of course, there's always going to be somebody who's going to say, yeah, but I gained weight because I broke my leg, or I have, a thyroid problem or whatever. It had nothing to do with that. So sustained habit change, above average action. That phrase, I hope, sticks with you for many days to come. Above average action. The next one is I deserve. I don't necessarily hear this one a lot from patients or clients, because this one's kind of like, people don't really say that. They might feel that, but they're going to give another reason, right? Like my family, or there's a money objection, or there's a time objection, or something like that. I personally relate to I deserve a lot. It's gotten me into a lot of trouble. It was my downfall, for sure, because if I was feeling stressed or tired or down, even if I was feeling great, I deserve, right? I deserve a glass of wine, a day off from the gym, a piece of cake. Never once, though, back then when I was struggling with my weight, did I say, I deserve food and fat freedom. And so, I wish I had known that, because honestly, what I really did deserve was that. I didn't deserve the piece of cake, because that was making me miserable. So today, when that little demon on my shoulder says I deserve something that is not in my best intention or doesn't align with my values or my current goals, I tell that sucker what it is that I really deserve. And so I hope that maybe that helps some of you. But here's the thing, you actually do have to believe that you deserve it. So do you all believe that you deserve to have freedom from this burden? Just kind of giving you something to think about, because sometimes the answer is no, and that's where you need to start. Not all the time. Yeah. Anyone use the excuse of my family won't eat my food and it's too hard to cook separate meals? This one comes up a good amount. And I have to challenge you on this one, because the primary staple of a diet that balances hormones is healthy for your family also. Our kids got a lot healthier eating our diet, actually. So unless they're underweight or they're super athletes, pasta potatoes is not a requirement at every meal, contrary to popular belief. They can have it when they eat out, or maybe if you're really kind, you can make a big batch of rice for them once a week, and they can eat off of it all week long if that's something that they feel that they need. But having a solid protein dish and some vegetables, that's all you need. So there's no need to cook separate meals, but in order for you to reach your goals, you do need to eat a certain way most of the time. And some of you need to ask yourself why you think your family won't support you. A lot of times it's because you haven't been honest with them about how bad you're suffering with this. You're pretending you're fine because you don't really want to talk about it. Because, I mean, up until now, you didn't even know if there was a solution, right? So you just kind of felt like maybe it was just you just didn't have enough willpower. And then that's not the case. So how about the next one? I'm too busy to plan and cook meals every day, so I eat on the go. Somebody put that in the comments already tonight. So I totally get that. As I shared with you yesterday, planning is a necessity if you're going to try to eat healthy and be really intentional about a certain lifestyle. So grab and go eating on the run will never work ever. I learned that planning was the number one key to my being able to eat in the way that I intend to. It is the number one thing. To this day, I still plan and take food with me to work, to baseball games, to on road trips, on vacations, because I don't ever want to be stuck in a situation where I'm not in control of what I'm putting in my body. I'm the one who controls my behavior. So since I actually practice what I preach here, so true, they feel I'm fine, but I'm miserable. Yeah, because I mean, we're like the Rock, right? We have to be fine. And what would they do with all that heaviness anyways, right? So spending a few hours once a week to plan and prep saves a ton of time in a busy week. I'm really encouraging y'all to try it, because you're going to love your weeks, because it's not Groundhog Day having to think about, plan, maybe even stop at the grocery store, pick up something, make it, clean it up every single day. It's not going to happen for me. So batch cooking and prepping on the weekend really allows just that super fast and meal prep during the week, and I get some of my time during the week back. And we have to face that, the current American lifestyle of fast food and quick and easy is really kind of like the root of the obesity epidemic in the first place. So we're going to have to step out of that mindset if we want to have transformation. But now that you just can't simply eat less of whatever it is that you come across and still experience a transformation. Also, if you really think about anyone who's done something really big, they were, really intentional about it. They didn't just go with the flow. They made it their priority. The next one is, I just want to feel normal and eat what I like. So this is sort of akin to the everything in moderation. So of course we have to acknowledge that it's uncomfortable to step away from our comfortable foods. Like we've been eating one way for our entire lives, right? And I get it. And let's also acknowledge that when we hear ourselves saying this, we can also remind ourselves that we're not a 3-year-old. And I say that to myself sometimes when I'm in this I deserve, I don't want to kind of mentality. I'm like, Whitney, you are not 3 years old. But I mean, seriously, we hear it all the time. Things like, but I'm Italian. I cannot give up pasta. You don't understand.
And sauce.
Yeah. And I hear you, and you do have a choice, of course. But the key here is to recognize that obesity is a disease. And I think that sometimes we just sort of forget that because we've always been told just, it's a behavior problem, right? The treatment and management of our disease is unique. It's specialized. It requires a specific lifestyle approach. And, it's different from others that are in our lives. So, it's going to require us to develop this kind of new normal that, we put in some effort to understand what works well to not just lose weight, guys, but feel great, and bring that confidence and that zest back. And once we really understand it, then we have to seek out whatever accountability or support to help us to continue maintaining this kind of approach or this lifestyle for an extended period of time, because that's when we're going to see the real results. So what happens when we start to maintain something for a period of time and we're feeling good while we're doing it, like the diet that I'm suggesting or suggested yesterday, is that our brains can then start to make these new neural pathways to where this new way of eating is our new normal, and it doesn't feel so hard or so different. It did definitely take both Bob and I a lot of time and consistency. Maybe in the beginning it wasn't fun. But I promise you that now our favorite foods are not the same ones as they used to be. And that's great. Like my kids' friends always joke about like the health freak and stuff like that. Like, I can't believe that you have this in your house, Miss Whitney. We're those people that annoy others, but I get a kick out of it. And I can promise you that it's fine by us because we don't feel deprived at all. But it did take a daily recommitment.
It did.
And us supporting each other through it too. Once you see something with clarity, right? Like how good you feel and how your joints are aching less and how much energy that you're having and your mood is better, you can't unsee it. And so now when you know. That doesn't mean we don't slip up sometimes, but when we do, we pretty much always usually regret it. So some of the other ones, like I eat out a lot or I socialize often. I'm on the road. I can't follow a plan. This is kind of another planning issue because, once you really understand what are the foods that are the allowed foods, those are there at every restaurant, fast food, or gathering. Nothing tasted as good as success feels. I love that. Someone told me that one like 20 years ago, and that stuck with me ever since. It's true. We can remind ourselves of that too. When we're like eyeing the box of donuts that they brought into the break room at work. I don't have the willpower. I don't have the willpower to diet again because it always fails. This is a belief that's rooted in a fear of failing. You can choose to look at it that way. It never works. Why bother? But you can also look at it a different way. What if it does? Have you really tried all of these techniques before? Probably not. So change your mindset around dieting to a lifestyle that best serves you and not a diet, and work on appreciating all of the non-scale victories along the way. That's critical. Like improved energy, better poop, better mental clarity, because this is the kind of stuff that's going to keep you doing it. Because really, when a lifestyle is full of things you can have and not a bunch of things you can't, you have options that don't leave you feeling so deprived. And I promise you that balancing those hormones will take away hunger and cravings, like sort of back to early surgery days, right? Right afterwards. Remember when it was like, food, it's all right, whatever. That's what eating in this kind of metabolic way will do for you. Because honestly, we can't rely on willpower. That willpower, it's just, it's fleeting, it's limited. Mine's usually gone by 1 p.m. and it can't be trusted ever.
Well, talk about willpower. Rosemarie here says, how do you manage yourself when you go to an all-inclusive resort?
Well, the closest thing I can say is we did a cruise this summer. The thing about places with a lot of food is that there's a lot of options, right? And so,
but I'm going to say, it seems ill-advised to plan an all-inclusive resort when
I
you're
agree.
really focused on the weight loss. When you're finally mentally there that you are doing it, don't put yourself in that situation.
Yeah.
Save that for when you're in maintenance.
Yeah.
And then you can make the right choices amongst all that's in front of you.
Mm-hmm. Because there's also then, the alcohol thing with the inclusive resorts. So, yeah, I agree. Like, I don't even, years ago, we used to love to go to like those fancy high-end restaurants that would have like a 5-course tasting menu with wine pairings. Like, it's been a long time since I've done that. I mean, it's sounds nice, but it's just not for me anymore.
Right.
I should be able to do it on my own.
Mm.
Who here thinks I should be able to do it on my own? I just want pasta. LOL, I get it though. Yeah, Chris, but you know what? If you give Zoodles a chance, you may not like it the first time or even the second or third, but you'll get there because, man, it feels so much lighter. It just, you don't feel like you need to lay down afterwards, and
And it serves you well.
yeah,
Serves your body.
it keeps you going on your goal. Like Catherine says, nothing tastes as good as thin feels. So that I should be able to do it on my own is kind of a faulty thinking, right? Because it's rooted in that old theory that we have already proved wrong for someone with the disease of obesity that spent a lifetime already dieting. Just cutting back how much you eat is all you need to do. And that is clearly false, or all of you would not be here and there would not be almost 5,000 people in a group for Regain after bariatric surgery. So we would just all be wildly successful and none of us would need this talk. And statistically, the chances that these, changes stick without some support are very low, right? Because there's a lot of nuances to managing our disease, and many of which you are not an expert in. So it's not simple like we were led to believe. So doing it on your own is going to be exceedingly difficult. I think you're kind of seeing this now. This is why, if you think about major life changes, they always have a support group with them, right? There's AA, there's like, grief groups, there's OA, cancer groups, divorce groups, but they work because people require a lot of support when things, are challenging and when we're trying to go into a new phase of life. So what is true is that big change and overcoming a lifetime of less than ideal habits is not something that most people can wave a magic wand and be granted, even if given a really great tool like a bariatric operation. We have these ingrained patterns of thinking and acting and dealing with life that really served a purpose at some point, but we don't want them anymore. So it now becomes unraveling a lifestyle of bad habits, and it takes a lot of awareness and reprogramming and support. If nothing and no one around you changed, it's going to take tremendous amounts of self-discipline to really step into a new daily way of being, right? This might be why you do it differently this time. You plan on really, absorbing all the information and really getting support in place before you do it. Maybe you're going to have that conversation with the family, maybe you're going to find some other people that are going to want to do it with you, or some other health seekers that you can kind of look up to. I'm better off than I used to be. I should be grateful. I heard this one today in the office, as a matter of fact. If you do, Twyla says, if you do what you have always done, then you will always get what you've always gotten. Yeah, if nothing changes, nothing changes. So I'm better off than I used to be. I should just be happy. This is a statement that says you don't feel worthy of achieving your ideal version of yourself. Also today, I thought it was a way of letting herself off the hook for making the diet changes. She just really didn't want to do it, right? And so she was stuck. It says that saying this is saying that, settling is okay with you. I really just want to give anybody the permission that it's okay to be grateful that you're better than you were and still want more. Like, it's okay. We can live in the and. This next one shows up for me too sometimes, but it's the money block. It's too expensive to eat healthy. I can't afford coaching or personal training or a therapist. When I'm talking to potential clients about working together in coaching, money objections come up a lot, but they come up in other scenarios too. I mean, even just getting people to invest in quality protein supplements or vitamins or eating a little, cleaning up the diet, getting away from like fast food and things like that.
What's more expensive than fast food? Good God.
What?
I said, what's more expensive than fast food? A quick trip through a fast food drive-through will drop you back, a month's
I would
expense of
honestly, I
vitamins.
would honestly have no idea. How would you even know that?
Because our teenage son does it
Oh,
occasionally.
so
Yeah,
you get the info from him.
yeah.
So the reality here is, though, I mean, we do have to challenge this when it comes to prioritizing ourselves, because this is an excuse that we allow. It's sort of like, in many respects, it's still allowing everybody else to come first, right? Where we put our energy in terms of our time focus, our energy, and our finances is, quite frankly, what we prioritize most. So when it comes to our health and really our inner well-being, it doesn't just happen without significant investment of those things. If we blow off the idea of investing ourselves from a standpoint of our health and well-being, then it simply means that we don't value that as much as we value other things, right? The material things, the things that make us feel good in the moment, but don't make us feel good later on. And we know that where our attention goes, our energy flows. I post that every Monday or Sunday. Meaning that what we prioritize is where we take action in and where we get results in. So like, if you think about it, what are you like prioritizing right now and like getting good results, right? But without truly investing in yourself, it's something like you and your goals and what you really need. And maybe this isn't really high on the list. I don't know that for sure, but I'm venturing to say it is because you've invested so much time already. It's just something down further on the list of importance, and likely something that you might not get to anytime soon. And this, the money block is often sometimes that we say to justify putting off prioritizing ourselves too, because we have this deep fear of failure and this kind of like self-worth issues that we are worthy of investing in ourselves, right? Because I mean, what if we spend money and it doesn't work, or someone criticizes us like, oh, you don't need that, you don't need that expensive protein shake. A way to reframe this block is, if it's one that's keeping you stuck, is this: you are halfway there. You already paid for the trip to your dream destination. And no, it wasn't all inclusive, except you left out the cost of the transportation to get there, right? So you have it all paid for, but you have no way of getting there. You can't get there without directions and transportation. That doesn't make any sense, right? So if you didn't buy the all-inclusive package that came with all of it, then your only option is a la carte, right? You're just going to have to piecemeal it together then. But you need to get to that dream destination, or it will have been a waste, right? So that means that you'll have to pay for directions, transportation, and in some cases, a driver. Maybe you're really bad drivers, But first, you have to believe that if given the plane or the bus tickets, that you have the courage to leave your comfortable home and step onto that path to your destination. And your transportation vehicle might be a little bit different than the next person's, but either way, it would be a waste to buy the dream without any way of getting there. I often, put it into practical examples, like I did with somebody today, about the vitamins. The person was literally 31 years old who was having trouble with her memory. The labs were terrible. And she still fought me about, I cannot afford him. Now, she was dressed very well, I mean, there was other clues. But here's some practical examples to prove the point. So we spend $7 3 times a week on Starbucks because we deserve it, right? But spending the same amount on vitamins, a nice night out with a spouse or a friend on the weekend, we deserve that. But spending the same amount on organic food or clean protein drinks is totally out of the question. We all are probably good at spending money on our kids or our spouses' hobbies. It's okay, like no problem. But investing in the same amount in some kind of program geared towards, you becoming empowered, and a health seeker, no way. So money objections are for sure real. It's one that I battle too. I've had to invest thousands and thousands of dollars in coaching to get where I am today in various areas. So I've had to overcome my own money blocks and fears. And when it comes down to it, the reality is that it does bring up fears of inadequacy, because we're always going to wonder, will it have been a waste of money? And that can be tough to kind of get past. But now that I'm aware that money objections and time objections are my biggest blocks to, taking the next action, I'm more aware, and I have honest conversations with my journal and my husband. And we often have this conversation of, what is it going to cost you to not do it, to not take that action, right? It's going to, are you going to be 3-6 months down the road worse than you are right now? Like totally frustrated. What's the cost of doing nothing?
I'm not sure if that will project.
No, I don't think so. Let's see. Let me move on here. So don't forget, we've both been here giving these excuses, and I definitely always use the excuse to myself and to others that I'm too focused on A, B, and C right now. I couldn't simply take on another big change. Right? The time objection.
I think I heard that this weekend.
Well, it was probably something that didn't align with my current goals, and that's okay. Now, looking back, I don't know which one of these statements that I'm about to make is more true. I don't know if I kept myself so busy and overwhelmed all the time with all the other things so that I wouldn't have to dig into working on me, or that I just made a choice to prioritize like other things above and beyond me because, well, I'm a woman and I should do that. I should be a good girl and prioritize everybody and everything over me. I'm sure some of you can relate to that. When it comes to our internal objections that we choose in order to kind of let ourselves off the hook in taking care of ourselves, because that's what this is about, we use a lot of I will whens and I will ifs and I can't now. Later is better. I have to take care of my mom, my kids, my dog, my husband, and then I can take care of me. And the thing is that we've been saying these excuses for our entire lives. And there's a good chance that, like I said earlier, this might be rooted in a fear of working on yourself, this fear of telling the world that you care enough about yourself to put in the effort and the investment to better yourself. But honestly, this fear is what kept us obese and unhealthy in the first place. And think about, didn't you guys get so excited? I know I did when you made that decision to have bariatric surgery, because you you thought, I'm finally going to focus on myself. I'm doing this for me, But what happened was this stayed true like for a period of time. And for me, it was sadly only about 6 weeks. And invariably, the life around us doesn't change, right? And so just because you had surgery where you were supposed to prioritize yourself, unless you really, really were intentional about that, you didn't have the support around you to actually make this happen, right? Not every day. So you drifted back to putting your needs and your wants and like even your intuition kind of on the back burner, and things started to go sideways because you didn't have the tools you needed and you didn't have the support. Right? When you think about it, you realize that life is really much like a roller coaster, and we can be coasting, going uphill, things going as planned, and then something happens and we start going down the hill, headed straight up for a crash. Life will always bring this roller coaster, and we will sometimes have to turn our focus away from ourselves and onto other people or situations, right? I mean, that is normal. That's life, because, we can all, if we think to, like somebody says, well, tell me, why did you gain weight? You're going to say like, well, my husband, left me, or I had an injury, or I got sick, or, my dog died. And there's always like some bad event, right? That kind of like was the start of it all. But what then, right? Like, what do we do after the fact? The what then is that you have to have developed the tools that allow you to catch yourself sliding and then know exactly what to do to self-correct, because you are now someone who values feeling and being your best, and what's required to stay that way. you know that in order to get through this roller coaster, you are going to have to care for yourself first, like the whole put on your mask before the kids, right? And you have the knowledge and the tools to make this happen. Probably the biggest self-belief that we kind of hold on to in this with great sadness, really. And I want us to just like through this 5 days, just like shake this off. It should have fixed me. I had bariatric surgery. If that's not going to do it, nothing will. Okay, but like we know better now. Yes, we thought it was the miracle. It was going to be the magic, and it wasn't. Maybe we were misled, or maybe we didn't hear it. But now that we know it, we can move on from it. We just accept it. All right. And we have to accept the fact that managing weight is just like managing any other chronic disease. Like think about the fact that a heart disease, somebody diagnosed with, has a, bypass surgery on their heart, they can't go back to smoking just because like, the cardiologist says that, oh, well, like your numbers are much better. Good job. Or a diabetic can't go back to eating pasta and dessert after like they are on medication, watching their diet, and they get their A1C under control. We would think that that was nuts. And so the same is true for us. Like we have a specialized way of lifestyle that we have to adhere to based on our disease. And we're just going to pretty much have to figure out and pivot and figure it out so that we can adopt the lifestyle and stay with it. So, I mean, it's just our reality, and it might not seem fair, or it might be frustrating or sad or whatever, but it is simply our situation. And I think when we can accept that, we can kind of just move on from the poor me. I oftentimes, you and I talk about how weight management is just like any other kind of important thing in our life, right? We're always going to have to take a peek at it. We're always going to have to check in with it. For us, that means, getting on the scale. And for me, it means planning our meals for the week and making them be smart. But it's just like we will always need to maintain a focus on our house if we want it to run smoothly, and we have to watch the kids' schedules if we want to know where they are. We have to pay attention to the business to keep it thriving. We just have to, when something's important enough, we just can't stick our head in the sand. We have to really put our intention and focus there. So I'm 100% confident that success lies in the fact that, whether you learn and adopt these kind of this roadmap and the skills that are needed to kind of manage weight now or later is really the only question. Because surgery was not the answer. It was never supposed to be. It was just part of the equation. And you know what? I still think it's a damn good tool. And I am so glad that I have it. It makes it so much easier.
And the number one reason it made it so much easier is the decreased hunger.
Yeah.
I mean, we're asking you to challenge and change the way you eat. If you tried to do that without surgery and you had that bear of hunger that you were dealing with on a daily or hourly basis, it's a different deal. It's a whole different game. Once you've had the surgery, you've got definite changes in your hormonal balance that are to your benefit. You just have to learn how to take advantage of them.
Yeah, but I think too, sometimes people forget that they might not be realizing that benefit because they got no instruction on what to eat, and they're eating like high carbohydrates, thinking maybe like they're having their oatmeal and banana breakfast, thinking that it's healthy, right? And meanwhile, it's creating significant hunger. Or you're drinking while you're eating, getting really, really hungry. There's things we are doing that we need to like fix that might be driving hunger. But when doing the things right, then the hunger is not an issue. Do you still have to pivot sometimes? Yeah. We definitely do. What bariatric vitamins? Well, we have our own vitamin line. It's called Building Blocks, Lori. That's what we basically have put all of our patients on for the last 25 years. So we obviously have a lot of confidence in that, and we see good results with that. So I think in yesterday's email, I put a discount code for them and their website, but I'll put it again in tonight's if you're interested in trying their vitamins. Most people that go on them, so like clients that we work with, they usually end up going on them, totally say game changer. That is what they universally describe it. So I mean, it's what we take. I would say, what do you think about, do we still have to pivot? I mean, I feel like I pivot all the time because it might not, like right now, we're focused on some other things because we've been at the weight thing for so long, and we've kind of got those habits ingrained now, so it doesn't take such effort. But I'm having to pivot all the time because listen, if I'm intending to do something and I can't figure out how to do it, I will immediately, I go to, okay, what am I going to try next? How am I going to make this work? Like recently, I gave up working out at, I was doing this thing called Real Women Lift. It was this like circuit training, weightlifting. And it was just like 6 of us women early in the morning. But he and I are on a debt diet right now. That's our diet of the moment. And the debt diet says, like, this is an expense that you could cut because you have a gym membership also, because my son works out, but I had to have a gym membership to get my 15-year-old son a gym membership. So just go to the gym, right? Guess who did not go to the gym? Because I need a lot of accountability. And that didn't work for me. And so 2.5 going on 3 weeks into it, I had to go to my son and say, listen, I know you prefer to work out in the evenings, but I'm going to need you to work out with me in the mornings at 6. So that would be like an example of, how I pivot, because I know that I can't just accept that, this isn't working. Like, I guess it's not meant to be like that. I'm not that person anymore that just accepts it. It's like, all right, what's next? And it very well may be possible that I squeeze money somewhere else in the budget because I need to go back to the women lift. So we'll see. All right, let's go on to some of the, how-tos, some strategy about overcoming limiting beliefs. And maybe is there any limiting beliefs that maybe would be good for discussion that you feel like throwing into the chat that maybe we didn't cover, beyond the money, the time, I don't have the willpower, I shouldn't have to eat differently, or I don't want to, it's too hard to cook separately, those kind of common ones. Anybody have anything unique? Or so the first step in overcoming these, I'm going to be watching the chat, is awareness. All right. Like really catching yourself saying them, thinking them is where we need to start, because when you resist something or you give yourself an out by just buying into one of these beliefs, you have to catch yourself doing it. And then the next thing you need to do is ask yourself, is this belief true? Is it really true that my family won't eat a low carb meal? Like maybe you should ask them. Maybe you should have a conversation with them and say, listen, I've decided I'm going to eat this way. I don't really want to cook, pasta anymore. Is it okay if we try zoodles and cauliflower rice instead? The next action here in challenging beliefs is to ask yourself, how is this belief serving me? And kind of listen for the honest answer. Like, what am I getting out of believing this is true? It's very likely that many of the kind of limiting beliefs that you're holding on to are rooted in fear. So just acknowledge it. Like, what is the fear that I'm like holding on to here? Because when you acknowledge your fear, whether it's a fear of failure or a fear of even, sometimes we hold on to a fear of being thin even. You can choose to take action to address the fear, right? Or you can let it go, because you can just say, I know that I have a fear and I'm going to take action anyways. I'm telling you that you can do things scared. I do it all the time. I'm doing this right now. Like I am talking live. It's going to be online for years to come. I'm not doing it perfectly, but I'm doing it because my why says I have to. Because I want to impact, I want to have an impact, and I want to get out our message, and I want you to have the information that we have because I know it will make a difference in people's lives. So if you acknowledge that it's just a fear, you can then rationalize to yourself, fear is just an emotion, y'all. It's meant to keep us from getting like away from being attacked from a bear. It's not meant to keep us from taking steps to improve our life. When facing resistance or fear and objections, you must always return to your why. Okay, that's like critical. So we did this in day one's homework. And so I would love if you guys would let me know some of your whys so we can celebrate like how important this is to you and like why it matters. But if your why is bigger than your fear, or like bigger than the inconvenience that this is going to take in your life, then you'll be more likely to not take no for an answer. Right? It matters too much, and there's too much at stake for you to settle for like, it's hard. So what? I'm going to do it anyways. It matters to be healthy. What does being healthy let you do that you can't do now? You got to take it deep.
Anybody on Facebook there saying anything?
My health. I need to be here to watch my daughter grow. That's a good one. So, and probably you need to be in a modeling for your daughter too, right? Modeling healthy food behaviors, healthy self-image behaviors, right? I know that was a big thing for me, is why I needed to get my shit straight, because I was showing my kids that I had a dysfunctional relationship with food and a dysfunctional relationship with myself. And I did not want them to have that. I did not want them to have that, to ensure that my family doesn't have to be called to say I might die. So that's a huge why. Like, you want to be around. Susan says, normally when seeing off blood pressure meds, be here for your grandson, adult children, more active lifestyle. Yes. Participate in life. Like, we only have this one time. My why is I want to learn and see myself the way that my friends, family, and patients see me, as a worthy, beautiful person. Yes. So just that inner belief in yourself, that self-confidence that comes, like, your insides match your outsides. I love it. Well, thank you. To be able to meet my own goals. Yeah. So, gosh, I felt the same way. Like, I had so much I wanted to do with the rest of my life. And I knew I wasn't going to do them if I was going to be stuck at that weight, because I didn't believe in myself enough that I couldn't even change my freaking weight situation. I couldn't eat like what I was supposed to be eating, right? How could I go to graduate school? How could I on and on and on start a business? I guarantee you that if I didn't figure out my way through my weight issues, that I would not be here talking to you all, because I wouldn't have the confidence to take weight off my knees so I can have knee replacements and get my quality of life back. Amen. Like, what's that saying that you used to always say? The larger you get, the smaller your world.
The smaller your world becomes.
So true. All right. Those are some excellent whys. Thank you for sharing. So, all right. So the process goes like this. You acknowledge the negative thought, you catch yourself, and then you say, I don't believe that is really true. What is something slightly more positive that I can actually believe is true? So the key is that when you're saying something like, I am terrible at meal planning, I hate exercise, I don't have what it takes to X, Y, or Z. If you can just take it from horrific to slightly better, but still something that you believe, that's a way that you can reframe. So for example, if you catch yourself saying, I hate exercise, you wouldn't say, I'm going to reframe that. You wouldn't say, I'm going to challenge, I hate exercise, with the opposite and say, I love exercise, because that's not true, right? It's not believable even to your own self. So you're like, that's BS. But you can say something like, exercise is hard for me, but once I do it, I feel so much better. I use this all the time because every single morning I try and justify why it's maybe not a good morning to exercise. And then I always tell myself, Whitney, you feel so much better when you exercise. Are you willing to have a shitty day just because you're not willing in this moment to get your clothes on and get to the gym? And the answer is always no. So it's something like, I'm going to choose to feel good by moving my body. Let's try a few more. I'm not good at planning meals. You could change that to, planning ahead will make it easier for me through the week. It'll save me some time. I want to eat the foods I like. Well, what if you just switch that up a little bit, right? It's all in perspective. What if you said, right now, I enjoy foods that aren't the best for me, but I'm open and willing to explore new foods that I might find that I can enjoy with some time. Or I am going to, you can borrow this phrase from me, write it down. I'm going to love the foods that love me back. I've used this endlessly. What about, it's so hard, I don't know if I have it in me. We could maybe choose to do something a little bit nicer than that, to say, I look forward to a challenge. I don't have the money to. I spend money on what I prioritize most, and it's okay to prioritize myself because that's priceless. My well-being is priceless. I'm afraid I'll fail again. What's the worst that can happen if I try? Nothing. Or action is better than inaction, even if it doesn't work out the way that I wanted it to, right? It's always better to take action than to sit still, because inaction just creates more fear, right? I mean, because now it's like, oh, now it's like doubly scary the next time. I don't know if this is the right approach. I should wait until something better comes along, or something sounds better, or like I should wait until the stars align. Be free from pain from arthritis. That's it. Living in pain is no way. So this is my life we're talking about. And I don't have time to waste staying stuck in inaction. That would be a good reframe for that one. I'm too tired. I'll start Monday. Man, I know. So I would reframe that into,
I acknowledge I'm tired.
I'm tired, and exercise will make me feel less tired.
Will provide a boost in energy.
Yeah. We got to challenge ourselves a little bit. All right, listen. Homework. There's two things that I think would be really beneficial for y'all to do. Oh, and it's 8:01. I've gone over, but we're at the end. The first one is to go back to some of those limiting beliefs. So yesterday, when we were going through the roadmap, whatever was coming up for you, I want you to like put yourself back to yesterday, and I want you to know, like, remember, what were you thinking as I was going through some of this stuff? Were you, I mean, it might have been like, oh, no way. That's like, I don't want to, but I would have to give up X, Y, or Z, or that would mean doing A, B, or C. Like, go back to those and write those down, and then look for a way you can make that slightly improved. Just reframe it a little bit and just see how that feels and see how it sits with you. And then keep coming back to that reframe and looking at it and reading it, and just see if in a couple of days or a week's time, if the idea hasn't sort of grown on you a little bit, right? Like maybe it's like less scary, or it's like less burdensome. It's just a little bit lighter, a little bit easier to face. And then the last thing I want you to do, and this is something I use myself, and it was told to me by a coach, and it's one of the simplest, easiest things to do. So after you write down your kind of objections, the things that always come up for you, or these beliefs you hold about yourself and what you're not capable of doing, I then want you to go to a mirror, look yourself in the eyes, and say, I am willing to change. That is so simple, y'all. Just, I am willing to change. But it's like you're having this heart-to-heart conversation with yourself, and you're making it safe to explore the idea of change, right? And also add to I am willing to change. I am willing to let go of my resistance to exercise at 6 a.m. I'm willing to let go of the resistance. It's like you are telling yourself that it's safe to change, and it's safe to let go of the baggage that is holding you back. I use it regularly, and it really is helpful. And it's one of those things where once you start doing it, if you do it repeatedly, maybe you do it every morning while you're brushing your teeth, it starts to build this thing inside you where when you're faced with something tough, or something you don't want to do, or a person you don't want to be with, you can just say, I am willing to see this differently. I am willing to see it differently. I'm willing to change. I am willing to give up my resistance to this person or thing or idea or concept. And it has a lot of power. So I wanted to share that with you. And if any of you implement this and you use it, and you find that it was helpful in breaking down some of your resistance to change, I would love it if you would let me know, either in the Facebook group or just send me a message. Okay. All right. So that is it for tonight. Tomorrow we are going to wrap everything in a bow and say goodbye. So I hope that you all join us tomorrow. And is there anything you would like to say in farewell?
I am looking forward to hearing what you have to say tomorrow.
All right. It'll be a surprise. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.